Pancreatic juice then contains three major components. We have sodium bicarbonate. This is an alkaline. Remember, the food coming from the stomach is acidic, and it could damage the walls of the intestine. And also, the enzymes that will be produced in the small intestine won't want to work in an acidic environment. These enzymes prefer to work either in a neutral or slightly alkaline environment. So sodium bicarbonate will then be released so that it can neutralize, it can cancel the acid. It's like you're adding plus and minuses. The plus and minuses cancel one another. It can neutralize the acid which will be found in the food coming from the stomach. This is to allow enzymes in the small intestine to function efficiently. Pancreatic juice also contains a series of enzymes which are categorized into three. They are carbohydrates that break down carbohydrates into glucose, proteases that break down proteins into amino acids, and for the first time, please notice this is the first time we mentioned the digestion of fat. Lipases are for the first time produced in the small intestine so that they can break down fats and lipids into fatty acid and glycerol. Now, it means in the mouth we have digestion of carbohydrates, in the stomach we have digestion of proteins, and in the small intestine we have digestion of fats, together with again digestion of carbohydrates and proteins. So the digestion that occurs in the small intestine occurs because in the mouth there was not enough time to digest all the carbohydrates, and carbohydrate digestion stopped in the stomach. Remember, the stomach gets acidic, so carbohydrates enzymes cannot work in the stomach. So it's paused there. The addition of carbohydrate is paused when we get to the stomach. Again, in the stomach, although digestion of protein occurs, but it does not digest all of the protein. So the leftover food complex molecules that are not broken down to the basic simpler molecules and nutrients, the leftover molecules that were not successfully digested, all these molecules are then digested or reprocessed in the small intestine. So digestion which was not completed in the mouth and in the stomach is now continued in the small intestine. Just in addition, digestion of lipases will also then take place. The last component of pancreatic juice is water, which is just used to keep the food fluid and easy to move, just like we have water in gastric juice, the same function. In the pancreatic juice, we had mixed with it bile, and that bile was also delivered into the small intestine. So bile has the following functions. It has water, and the water in bile also keeps the food fluid and enables easy movement of the fluid. Bile also has alkaline, just like the bicarbonate we had before, alkaline salts that neutralize the acid coming from the stomach. Bile emulsifies fats. Fats are not easy to be broken down unless they are first emulsified or made into droplets. Broken into droplets, then the fat enzymes can now be able to act properly and more efficiently to break it down into fatty acids and glycerol. Also, bile salts assist with the absorption of ADEC. ADEC are the fat-soluble vitamins. They will not be easily absorbed unless bile salts were present there to make them absorbed. And we say fat-soluble because these vitamins are not soluble in water. They can't dissolve in water, but at least they can dissolve in fat. So fat is a solvent for these vitamins. Again, bile is slightly antiseptic. Antiseptic because it's able to destroy germs. Hence, by destroying germs, and these germs are mostly decomposers, they prevent the decomposition of food in the small intestine. Although food still gets decomposed, but the extent to which it's done, it's much reduced due to the presence of bile, which is antiseptic. Another juice that assists with digestion in the small intestine is intestinal juice, also referred to as succus entericus. So we had pancreatic juice, we had bile, now we're having intestinal juice. Intestinal juice is alkalinic and it's mucus. It's an alkaline mucus that is secreted by intestinal glands. We had two glands that we saw, that was the Brummer's gland and the crypt of Lieberkühn around the villi. These produce the succus entericus, and it helps to lubricate food so that it's more slimy and protects the lining of the small intestine. Remember, acid is coming from the stomach, so protects the lining of the small intestine just the same way mycin was doing when it was protecting the lining of the stomach against acid found in chyme from the stomach. Enzymes on the membrane of the columnar epithelial cells will then include, because we have columnar epithelial cells that are found in the lining of the villi, external lining of the villi, among or between which we have the goblet cells. So the enzymes that are produced by these columnar epithelial cells would include the three same categories of enzymes we mentioned earlier: the carbohydrates, the proteases, and the lipases. We've seen their final breakdown products already. In the past, it was believed that the glands, the Brummer glands, and the crypt of Lieberkühn were involved in producing these enzymes. But now it has been known that these glands don't produce any enzymes at all. They only produce the alkaline mucus. That's all what they produce. But these enzymes that are produced here are only produced by the columnar epithelial cells that form part of the villi. The final breakdown, the final hydrolysis of nutrients occurs inside the lumen, the inner part of the small intestine. It had those three walls: the serosa, the wall of muscles, the submucosa, and the mucosa. Now, the inner part of the small intestine, the lumen, is where the final digestion occurs, is where the final digestion was thought to occur actually. But it doesn't exactly occur there, because in the past people used to believe digestion ends up here within the lumen of the small intestine. And now we know that digestion actually ends either on the cell wall of on the cell membrane of the columnar epithelial cells, or within the inner part of those cells. It then means that digestion, the final digestion, is more or less intracellular. That's where it occurs.